Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and this is gonna be a weird one. Uh, Back with another movie review, and this time I saw Spider-Man Lotus. Hope you can see that well enough. This is a 2023 superhero drama film directed by Gavin J. Konop. Stars Warden Wayne, Sean Thomas Reed, Mariah Brooklyn, Tuyen Powell, Maxwell Fox, and Mariah Fox. In this film, Peter Parker, who is struggling from the loss of Gwen Stacy and contemplating hanging up the suit for good. Wait, this is a bad sentence. Until he receives a letter from a terminally ill child requesting that Spider-Man pay a visit before he passes away. So, what did I think of Spider-Man Lotus? Well, to be honest, I know I don't have to watch what I say because plenty of people have enjoyed this film. I don't think it's perfect. I think far from that is it perfect, but given that it's a fan film on a micro budget, it's actually pretty good. For what they could possibly even do on a $125,000 budget, they did a pretty good job. I do have quite a few issues, and I will talk a little bit about the controversy because I do think that people have blown a lot of things out of proportion, and I think there's a bit of a double standard going on with this. But yeah, I there's definitely a lot of people here who are being very unreasonable about certain things. But let me get to the cast. Warden Wayne plays Peter Parker. I've never seen him before. I'm guessing he's a starting actor. He does a pretty good job here for the most part. He has some spotty moments near the beginning. Pretty much all of the cast do. But for the most part, I bought him as Spider-Man. I bought him as Peter Parker. I think he did pretty well in the scenes where he was supposed to be emotional. And yeah, I think he works for the film. Sean Thomas Reed plays Harry Osborn. I'm a bit half and half on him. Again, like in the first half, I'm not a big fan of his acting. He comes off very I don't know what the term is. He comes off a bit too whiny, kinda, and a bit over dramatic for sure. But I think he does get better as the film goes on. Mariah Brooklyn plays Mary Jane Watson. I think she's all right in the beginning. She gets better as it goes on again. Um, I think she looks quite a bit like Mary Jane in the comics. I think they got her look down pretty well. Um, Tuyen Powell plays Gwen Stacy. Um, I don't mind her. I don't really hate any of the actors in this. I think they're doing what they can. And I'm not saying that because the writing is like horrible or anything. I mean that like I feel like a lot of them are maybe the director's inexperienced. This is his first film and he is only freaking like what was he, like 19 or 18 when he was filming this? Like fucking young. Uh but no, I think she does a fine job. Maxwell Fox plays Tim Harrison, the kid that wants a visit from Spider-Man before he dies. I think he does a good job. Kid actors are a hard thing to come by when like good child actors, and I think he does a pretty good job here. And Mariah Fox plays Tim's mother. I think she does a good job as well. I'm guessing she's his actual mother. She gets across some pretty good emotions in the couple scenes she has. And before I get to the film, I'm gonna compare this to other movies that have had similar controversies about them. You have the director of Jeepers Creepers, Victor Salva, who, for anybody who doesn't like hearing about sexual assault stuff, I'm just gonna warn you because it is pretty fucked up. Molested a 13-year-old actor from his first film on camera and was in possession of commercial child porn. Only got 18 months in prison, and I don't think any of his films are at a 3 on IMDb. The Jeepers Creepers movies, which have direct influences from his pedophilic behavior, do not have that low of a rating. I can actually check right now. I bet they're in the 6s, because apparently no one cares when it's a bigger director. 6.2 for the first Jeepers Creepers, 5.7 for the second. The third one is 3.9, so that's the lowest one. So, literally movies from a pedophile, and they don't even have like a 3. 3.9 is literally a 4. That's basically a 4. Woody Allen had sex with his stepdaughter. No one rates his films low. He's an artist. Separate the art from the artist. Kevin Spacey. Allegations against him for sleeping with children. None of his films have that low of a rating. But when it comes to this, Gavin J. Konop, which the controversies surrounding this film shouldn't even be controversies. I know I might be in the minority when talking about this, but the things that are controversies are either like things that okay, the thing about this film is that I feel like people immediately they heard about these controversies and they had an easy reason to hate this film. Because once you hear that there's a controversy and one of the actors in something is in their eyes or in the eyes of the people that they follow a horrible person, then they have a reason to hate something. So pretty much every review for this film on Letterboxd is like, oh, fuck you, Gavin and Warden, you racist, ableist pieces of shit, homophobic. As someone who is bi, I hate having to use that as a thing to talk about this, but as someone who is bi, I've seen the texts that were supposedly them being racist, ableist, homophobic. They used the R word, they used the dreaded R word, they used the N word. I'm not going to say them because I have no reason to, and I don't care to. They used the F slur. But let's be perfectly honest. They are buddies. They're young. I'm not saying it's an excuse. It's not good that they use those words. But to act like the movie itself has something to do with this is so unreasonable. Insanely unreasonable. Because you know these same people that are trashing on this movie have done the exact same things as children. Kind of like actors like Simu Liu, who, even though I don't care about him, the weird like tweets that he had back in the day that people were saying are racist. People like do they not understand that teenagers say stupid shit that they end up regretting later in life? Do they not understand that people can grow and, get past all of that and realize, oh fuck, I said horrible shit. I said horrible, horrible things when I was a kid, and I regret them. Does that mean nothing anymore? Does regret not mean anything? Because I think in this instance, I can forgive the director and the main actor for saying a couple N words or R words and F words, especially since I've called gay friends that because they're like, oh, I don't care, whatever. Because because that's what I call friends sometimes. Uh, it doesn't make me homophobic because I'm not. I think people have really forgotten what the terms racist, ableist, and homophobic mean because really nothing they said was any of that. But and also the actor that's playing the Green Goblin, John Salandria, apparently was grooming a 17-year-old in his acting class. That from what I read, that's what happened. He was grooming a 17-year-old in his acting class, and he's like in his 30s. That's disgusting for sure. He barely has any screen time in the film though, and I don't it if Kevin Spacey starring in films doesn't affect the films for most people, even knowing about certain things, why should this? Why does this deserve a 3.1 out of 10? Why don't you go to Kevin Spacey's films and bomb them? Even though, you know what? I crazy thought here. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should judge the film as a film or as a fan film. Maybe you should judge it as what it is. How well does it do what it is? And not do the same shit these same people did to Sound of Freedom for what they were seeing as scummy business practices, which in reality were just crowdfunding a release of a film so that more people could see it and spread a positive message, which has actually affected many people. With Run, Hide, Fight, where people were constantly spreading a message of, oh, the people behind the scenes are shitty people. Oh, so it matters in this case, but it doesn't matter in every Hollywood movie that you eat up, every superhero movie in Hollywood that you eat up, every fucking Fast and Furious movie, whenever there's allegations against some of those types of actors. That doesn't matter. But this allegation that doesn't mean shit, which to this day, the same allegations against the people working on Run, Hide, Fight have not had anything added to them, most likely meaning that the people trying to slander them gave up because they were a conservative company. They got slandered. Of course, it happens. But yeah, why I really wish we could stop being so childish. Like if you think a film is like offensive or whatever, or that hair looks fucking bad. If you think that the film is bad because of some type of like thing like this, you're not talking about the film anymore. Because nothing in the film has to do with pedophilia, grooming, racism, ableism. And the director, I saw the video he made about you know, the controversies, about the messages. While I do think he was genuine in his apology, not trying to spice it up by being like, oh, I'm going to play guitar, or I'm going to do interpretive dance, or I'm going to have a dog with me, or a cat. I do think that him blaming his conservative upbringing was a very big cop-out. I don't hate him as a person for it, but holy shit, that's a really stupid thing to say. Oh, because of my conservative upbringing, I was brought up to be more racist. So that's why me and Warden said the N-word over text. Just admit that you said it because you're fucking friends and it doesn't matter. As long as you aren't saying it to be malicious, as long as you aren't literally going down the street and saying, hey, you stupid N-word, as long as you aren't doing that and it's in private, to be honest, I could give less of a shit. I know I'm not alone in that opinion. There's plenty of people that have that opinion. It does not make me racist. It does not make me homophobic. Again, bye. It does not make me ableist when one of my best fucking friends is someone who is a cancer survivor and can barely walk. And I don't have to say all that because I shouldn't have to defend myself. Anyways, now that now that we've gotten the controversies out of the way, which aren't really that big of controversies, yeah, John Salandria grooming a 17-year-old is weird for sure. Now that we're past that, I'm gonna have to put a timestamp. The film itself, I enjoyed it, even with all the controversies, which, again, not really that controversial, things that happen all the time, but you choose to focus in on this because you're spiteful bastards. What Gavin is trying to do here is create a bit of a more, how do you say, he wants to make a more dramatic version of a superhero movie. Kind of in the same way that The Punisher 2004 did it. Where you have, like, yeah, that is my favorite comic book film, and it is one of my top 20 films of all time. The Punisher 2004 with Thomas Jane, with John Travolta, Ben Foster, you know. Because that film gave the main character a human feeling. He didn't feel like just another like paper cutout, another macho like piece of meat that was going to be invincible, because he's not. He's not invincible. He gets fucked up throughout the entire movie. And I can give so much praise to a movie that allows that to happen. I understand it wouldn't make sense for certain superheroes to get fucked up, like Superman. It really wouldn't make sense for his suit to be all ripped. But it is so fucking refreshing to see a superhero movie like this, where it's not just, ooh, look at the spectacle. There's a little bit of that, but to be honest, it is actual spectacle. You know why? Because this film cost $125,000. This film cost fucking nothing. For being a fucking, sorry. For being a crowd-funded, a Kickstarter movie, this film cost nothing. And the fact that this is what they did with it is really interesting. Because, sorry, I've got allergies. The fact that this is what they did with it is really interesting. Because, it's just always nice to see people pushing budgets. Because you have films like El Mariachi, which cost $7,000, looks like a film, pretty well acted overall, fun action. You've got Run, Hide, Fight, $1.5 million budget, looks like a well-budgeted film, doesn't look cheap, good cinematography, good score, really good score that fits with what the film's going for. Isabel May giving a knockout performance alongside Thomas Jane and Rodham Mitchell. You have plenty of films that actually push the budget. And then you have all of these Hollywood movies like Thor Love and Thunder that cost like $250 million and have effects that look like they're straight out of a like 2005 direct-to-video sci-fi movie or just a sci-fi TV movie. So it is so refreshing to see a film like this with, again, $125,000 budget. And you've got web swinging scenes that actually look really good. And yes, are there some shots where it's obviously CG? Yes. There are some shots in the rain where he's looking over the city or whatever. I think those are CG. They look a bit too clean. There are some times that the CG does stick out and it does feel kind of video gamey. But to be honest, it didn't bother me because the official Spider-Man movies kind of look like a fucking video game too. Like Homecoming, No Way Home, Far From Home, whatever. They look like video games as well. Pretty much all of them look like video games. So it doesn't really bother me. nothing stuck out as horribly animated, especially given the budget. So I can give so much credit to the visual effects artists that worked on this film. Um, the action scenes. Now, again, this is a mostly drama-driven and dialogue-driven movie. Most of the film has to do with, again, Peter Parker getting over the death of Gwen Stacy. So, but there's about I'd say, three or so action scenes, and I think they worked pretty well. Are there some weird editing decisions at times? Sure, but they were enjoyable, and the effects work very well. I'm counting web swinging scenes. I'm not really counting web swinging scenes as action scenes, but there's the scene with Shocker at the beginning. There's the flashback to the Green Goblin fight, which we don't see all of it, which is a bit disappointing. I can say that, but and there's a scene where he's fighting against Uncle Ben's killer in a flashback. So most of the action scenes are flashbacks. But the scene at the beginning, I really thought was very well executed. The web looks pretty good. The costumes look so fucking good. Here's one thing. They actually look like costumes because they didn't do what the Marvel movies did, where they have a costume and then they put a fuck ton of CGI over it. I think I would be more I would buy into the Spider-Man movies nowadays if I couldn't tell that there was a ton of CGI over an existing suit. Um but yeah, like no, this film has some impressive shit in it. Oh, cinematography wise too. There's some gorgeous shots of New York. Now, I don't know if I don't know how much of it is stock footage. I think at certain points there is stock footage, but there are shots that go from one place to another and our actors are there. So I highly doubt that those are stock footage. There are some very nice sweeping shots that are definitely super impressive, especially, again, given this budget. I have to keep saying that because this film, I think people don't exactly get that this isn't like, yes, the director said some things about like I want to make the Spider-Man movie I want, that whole thing. Whatever. Many directors do the same thing, but now you're focusing on it because it's a small time director who hasn't directed anything yet. For someone who hasn't directed before, he did a pretty fucking good job. So get over yourselves. Like, if you don't like the film, that's fine, but it seems like a lot of people are very unfair with how they go about talking about this film. I am going into it expecting a fan film, and it surpassed that. Is it on the level, thematic wise, acting wise, as modern Marvel movies? I don't really know. I haven't seen a lot of Marvel movies. I think that gives me a bit of a fresh perspective because if you've seen a lot of Marvel movies and then you watch this, I can understand you being like bored or whatever. I wasn't. I'm not usually into dramas of this type because I heard so many people say that this was like a soap opera. Well, like most of the reviews on Letterboxd are literally like, "Oh, you racist piece of shit." It's not even people reviewing the movie. They're reviewing the controversy and giving it half stars. That's what this is. It's bombing. You're bombing the fuck out of a movie because you think the creators are racist, and you're feeding into controversy. You've got this cult-like mentality where you feel like if you give any credit to this film, then that makes you a bad person, which is not true. If you give credit to this film, if you like this film, you are not a pedophile, you're not a homophobe, you're not an ableist. get over yourselves. You're not racist either. If you like the acting of Warden Wayne, if you like the direction of Gavin J. Konop, you're not that. You are your own person. And it's ridiculous that I even have to say this. I do have things that I have to say are cons, though. I wrote them down because I knew I'd probably go on a rambling rant. I do think that the runtime is a bit long for what this is, which is a fan film. Even though I do think it surpassed many fan films in many ways, production-wise specifically, and drama-wise. I do think the 2-hour running time is a bit long. I know it's only an hour and 45 minutes without credits. The credits are 15 minutes long because it has all the backers in it. Makes sense. I think this would have been better as hour 45 with like hour and 30 movie runtime. And then the 15-minute credits. Because there are bits in the first half that do drag a bit, where the film does get a bit too heavy into the melodrama. That's another thing. This film gets a bit too overly dramatic for certain things that it talks about. And I will admit, at that point, I was like kind of losing interest a bit. And I was like, okay, this film has to do something interesting to get me back. And some of the acting from the cast, like, again, the cast start out for the most part fine. Warden Wayne throughout the entire movie I think is decent enough, but the acting does steadily get better and better as the film goes on. And the way that they did the Gwen Stacy thing, I'm not 100%, I don't 100% love it. Because you go from him talking about taking her on a trip and saying they never went on the trip, and then you get the opening credits, which are actually pretty nice opening credits, and the end credits are cool too. You go into the credits, and then after the credits, Gwen Stacy's just dead. You don't see her die. You don't see the full Green Goblin fight, which I will say is a bit of a disappointment, because I was thinking that could be a very good dramatic moment. And it is still used as a dramatic moment, but it's just her body after she's already dead. Maybe it was a budgetary thing. That would make sense. But it was still a bit of a disappointment. But still, I enjoyed this movie to an extent. I don't regret watching it. I'm not a racist now after watching it. I'm not homophobic. I'm not ableist. I'm not any of those things. I am me. I'm not affected by a lot of the things this film is accused of. And I think some may call me stupid for saying this, but I think it's kind of childish to say that a movie is trash just because of, like, just because of controversies. Like, these reviews on IMDb, 1 star, nothing but talking, no plot, horrible story. Literally not nothing but talking. Because there's action throughout parts of the film. There's sweeping shots of New York as music is playing that actually fits the tone. That's another pro for this film. There's a cover of exit music for a film by Radiohead that's actually quite pretty and works thematically for the scene it's attached to. Snooze Fest, couldn't get worse, trapped in its own web of hype. Yeah. Like, at least the people on IMDb are somewhat talking about the film, but I think saying this is a 1 star and starting it out with, I'm not going to talk about the controversy, I think you're talking about the controversy by even saying that. Most of these people aren't concerned with the quality of the film. They're not. They're concerned with riding a train. Not everyone who doesn't like the film is riding the train, but you know that a lot are. That's just how YouTube works. That's just how movie criticism works. You ride a train. If people are saying, oh, this is a piece of conservative propaganda, or it's a piece of Christian propaganda, then you're going to have people writing that. If somebody says a movie has characters that are Mary Sue's or whatever, you're going to have a train on that. So it's just another one of those movies that has issues with that, where hopefully sometime people will actually be able to talk about this film and not make an hour-long video talking about, ooh, the controversies and how horrible these people are, even though it's kind of a similar thing to Mel Gibson, where Mel Gibson apologized and people, even decades later, are still giving him shit for something that he said in the privacy of his own home. This is a very similar thing to the Mel Gibson thing. But yeah, I have to end this because it's past 30 minutes. I like the film. Anybody else who feels afraid to say that they like the film, don't be afraid. If you like the film, just say it. Don't be afraid of how people will treat you. There's plenty of films that I like that I've gotten shit for, or people have accused me of things for liking. I don't let it bother me anymore, because I don't see the use in getting bothered by people's words anymore. So, that was my review of Spider-Man Lotus. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down in the comments below. And I'll link the film in the description because it's on YouTube for free on Gavin's YouTube channel. And Movie Reviewer Next Door, out.